Howdy everyone, this is Mappa, this is the Asgaard SMP Season 2, and welcome back to episode number 7. We did a little bit of work off camera. We've got a moss farm rolling behind us here. We've also upgraded all of our tools, if we take a peek here, and our armor. That is pretty slick. So we're going to need a ton of these blocks for today. If you didn't watch the last episode, go ahead and take a gander back at that, because we got tons of mossy cobblestone, tons of mossy stone bricks, and we're going to need a lot of moss blocks as well. So I put this farm together. I've been AFKing for a while. I think I just sat it overnight and then a couple hours after that. And we have a ton of stuff here. So, and we've just collected even more. Okay, that's just toss that in there. I don't need that in my inventory right now. Let's come down here because I've already filled a couple of shulker boxes full of moss blocks. Let's go ahead and grab those. That's only a portion of what we're going to need today, because if we head on off to our base area, which I almost flew in the wrong direction, let's head off over here. We're definitely going to need to do more with that in today's episode. We can't just leave it like that. We should certainly be blending it into the rest of the spawn area and putting up a building around it and making it very community friendly. But if we come up on over here, we just need one more rocket. There we go. So this bridge goes off to our base area that we were planning in last episode, and I got an exact count for how many blocks I'm going to need in order to build this thing up in the sky. And here we go. So originally my calculations were a little bit off because I was treating the build as if it were going to be solid. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead back to last episode and give that a watch. But we need, let's see, 3 double chests roughly of moss blocks, but we're also going to need all of this in order to craft up the mossy stone bricks, of which I have just the regular stone bricks, and the mossy cobblestone, of which I have just the regular cobblestone. So for starters, we can go through here and just craft this all up, and I think it's 1-to-1 if I'm not mistaken, right? If it is, yeah, this is going to take a while. So why don't I go ahead through here and then also determine just how many moss blocks I'm going to need. I know it's not 3 full double chests, but let's start bringing stuff over here so that we can at least cross off gathering the materials for today's episode. Hey, excuse me, what is this? How did this happen? Hold on. What? Oh. When did that happen? I don't know if somebody just like baited them in there, or oh, now I gotta eat hard. Rocket, there we go. I don't know if somebody just baited them in there or what happened, or if they just wandered in there on their own, but apparently now we have some pillagers on our boat out front. So here we have all of the supplies now. We've got cobbled deep slate running straight through. We've got the moss blocks running all the way through, and got the carpets as well. Not going to need a ton of those, just kind of using them to cap off the sides. Grass blocks we cheated on a little bit. We are just going to throw some dirt in there and let the grass spread, but then stone, cobblestone, mossy cobblestone, all the way through to mossy stone bricks are all good. This actually didn't take quite as long as I expected it to, but now that we have all of these supplies, we should probably bounce back over so that if anybody else wants to use that moss farm, it'll actually be ready for them, and then we'll circle back and actually start doing something over here. So I've collected up all of the drops out of the farm here and just set them aside for now, because I think what we should do first is build an item sorter. We've got moss blocks here, plus all of the moss blocks that I already took out of it. So from one AFK session, we probably had like 7 double chests full of moss blocks, which is absolutely crazy. And then some moss carpet as well. And then we've got the azalea, flowering azalea, and wheat seeds down here at the end. So we can sort those all out instead of just pumping them into random chests. We should also be pointing it in the other direction. So we'll have to drop that down and bring it over this way, because our main path is over here and we don't want to have to walk around the building in order to get to that. So we'll go ahead and get cracking with that, and then we should probably also have the ability to turn each one of them on or off, because realistically nobody's probably going to want to get wheat seeds out of this farm. We're probably mostly just looking for moss and moss carpet. So if we can just kind of turn those off, let them all go into a composter and turn it into bone meal and then into bone blocks. That's probably the best case scenario to avoid tons and tons of items piling up over time. And then as well for that, once one of the columns is full, we should probably also send all of that overflow off into the same kind of composting system. So let's go get cracking with this. Shouldn't be too difficult, and we'll see what we come up with. So here's the additional redstone. Now it is pretty simple, but we do have this big bulbous along the bottom here. Let's go ahead and quick take a look at what's all going on. It is pretty straightforward. We do just have additional hoppers running out the back here, and I've noticed that it can bottleneck right here. If the farm runs too long, I might have despawning items, so we might have to come up with a different solution in the future. But all those hoppers that were previously in there are just running down, and instead of going into chests, they're going into a single hopper line that runs off into this item sorter. And this is just a traditional item sorter, nothing too fancy there, but we do have the ability to turn different silos on and off. So for instance, this first column is moss blocks. I can flip that copper bulb back on and the floor will be higher so that I don't actually have to jump and hit that. If we go into free cam mode here, now we can see that that hopper is locked, which means that any moss blocks will just be treated as overflow and they'll continue on down the line. So then anything that is turned off continues down, any overflow goes down, it all goes into this composter at the end so that it can be turned into bone meal. And coming out of the composter, it meets up with all the additional bone meal that is left over from running the farm, because that actually generates a ton. That dropper into the dispenser is pretty much always full, so any additional bone meal that comes through there just gets run off in this direction. Again, meets up right there, goes into this crafter, turns into bone blocks, and then comes out right at the bottom. So we have moss blocks here. We've got our other 4 blocks. Let me re-enable that one. And at the end here we have bone blocks. So yeah, already 5 stacks of bone blocks, which is pretty crazy. Goes very well with the farm that we have up there, the iron farm, and getting the bone blocks from all of the poppies coming out of that. If you ever need bone blocks on the server, there are tons of ways to get them, plus the mob grinder back there that you can get lots of bones from, and obviously turn those into bone blocks as well. So anyway, last little bit here, we have the ability to turn the farm on and the indicator light. So once again, if I go into free cam mode, we can see that all going on up here, and then that's just going to get sent right down. And now typically the moss controls the whole thing. If that gets in there first, there's so much going in there. Yeah, we can see it start to fill up now. That yeah, pretty much nothing else is going to come in until that's done coming. But if let's turn that off and then bypass this. Now no more moss is going to go in there, and all of the moss is going to go into that, and you might just be able to hear that composter firing off because all of the moss blocks are getting in there. And if I can go fast enough, maybe right here, yep, there we go. So we can see all of the moss blocks getting chucked right in there. So pretty cool. Anyway, we're going to need a building around this thing because we can't just leave it like this. I have a pretty cool plan that's going to match with the other building that I apparently can't see right now with that pagoda. So let's go ahead and get cracking with that. And there we have it. This is a differently shaped building than we had before, but it is totally in the same style, using the same blocks and everything. Now, of course, there is still some left to be done. What do I have with those dirt? I mean, I don't need that. There we go. There is a hole out the front here, and if we go into free cam, you can see why. There is some redstone right here, so we couldn't replace those blocks underneath it. And what we're going to do instead is probably just bring the wall out by 1 block and just kind of blend it into the rest of the build so that you can't see that right there. I did consider like making that like a window or something going in, but I think just because there is the redstone dust right there, that will be our next best bet. So we'll of course take care of that, and we need to bring the path up as well, because from here we don't actually have any connection yet. So a staircase up and then some kind of platform going around here will be necessary. And actually along the back we almost ran into the same issue, so that's actually like pressing right up against it, and we've replaced some of the blocks, so that is perfect. I guess I probably should have skewed this maybe 1 block otherwise, so that like the weird bump would be along the back, but I think we'll be able to blend it in totally fine. And then we do of course need an entrance to this as well, because right now it's just completely blocked off. We don't actually have any access to our storage, and if we come on down here, yeah, it's like 1 block inside of there, so that's not going to be ideal. And of course it's up a little bit as well, and then those blocks are up there, so we got to do something. We'll probably just end up cutting this front face out and just kind of making it an open port into the build. But anyway, yeah, pretty happy with this. Lots of resources have gone into this. Surprisingly, I did not have nearly enough mangrove. I had like basically none of that, so that took a while to collect. And these stems as well took quite some time to collect. These things are like kind of rare when you don't have a mushroom biome nearby. I've been going to a dark oak forest and collecting them that way. So yeah, it took a little bit longer than I care to admit. And actually the roots as well down here, the muddy roots, making all the mud instead of going to a swamp, or a mangrove swamp for that matter, also kind of took a while, but I did luck out at least having the cut copper still left over from doing that one and having lots of it still from that. So we're gonna go ahead and get cracking with that and see how this ends up turning out. And just like that, we have it done here. So I've added a road sign out front saying that we have the iron farm and mob grinder off in that direction, and that the moss farm is up here while town is back off in that direction. And then I've actually added another one over here saying that this is the villager breeder and town is proceeding down that way. So if we go ahead and take a look up here now, we do have a staircase that goes right the way up to it and just kind of blends straight into the building. Same thing on the other side, as this kind of just wraps around, and then we've used the same plants that we used in the other pagoda over there. And it looks so weird. I tried updating my shaders and I just couldn't quite get the settings right with the new version, although it did actually correct that weird colorness, so maybe we'll play with that in between episodes. But yeah, there we go. We got the same plants over there, looking pretty good, and a couple of lanterns hanging over. Put them at varied heights just to add that little bit of difference there and just make it look a little bit more unique and seem like there's just a bit more going on here. But the front of the building is really where the big change is, because we brought that out at the top, and I think that looks so much cooler just to add that extra little bit of depth. So now that blends in. It's pretty much the same style it would have been otherwise. It's just now out one block and then doesn't have that extra line above it. So yeah, pretty cool. Then at the bottom, that is receded by one, just so that we can't reach all the way down to the chest. And then we can turn this on and off over here, and the bone blocks come on out at the right. So yeah, very, very happy with how this is working. I should probably add some sort of indicator of what's going to come out where. So I could probably just put like some item frames or something on the floor here and as well over there. And then maybe just like one side or something to say, just to like turn it on, and then clicking those buttons disables each one of those options. So the sun is setting now, and it is time to hop over to the base, the new base area, not the starter base, because we've got some building to do. Now that we have all these materials, we can go ahead and actually start that mega project. Well, this has been quite the project so far. This already has taken me 7 hours just of placing blocks, and this is only the gray part underneath. Like, look at player for scale. This thing is huge. So like I said, 7 hours just to place the stone blocks, 4 to 5 hours to mine them all out to begin with, and then crafting up all of those moss variant blocks took a while, and of course it took the overnight AFK session in order to collect all of those. But just like actual gameplay has been like 12 hours already, and we still have to do the greenery. But nonetheless, we are getting there, and it's going to take me a while to edit that footage for the time lapse. So hopefully that turned out pretty well, but that did of course break our streak of weekly episodes for this season, which is a little unfortunate, but I think it's so worth it because we are getting so much done, and I cannot wait until we have a completed product. But anyway, the time for the actual video is probably going to be a little bit short because it's been so much work of just kind of the same thing, just click, 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 and then like so many scaffolding blocks along here as well, that I don't think it makes sense to continue going in today's episode. But anyway, we will finish this in the next one, so hopefully y'all have enjoyed. Go ahead and subscribe for more, and I'll see y'all next time.